Alright, so today's video log is going to cover a topic of expertise and sort of what makes you an expert or what makes somebody knowledgeable in the field, in whatever field, in this context, in the field of exercise science, biomechanics, exercise physiology, fitness, whatever you want to call it. So this is something in my career, in the 18 years here that I've been in the fitness industry or in gyms in some regard, 8 years professionally and the rest just in my own personal experience, that I've come across a lot of times, especially in the last years as a professional, the last 8 years as a professional. In particular, I hate to pick on guys, but it tends to be the demographic that this scenario seems to play out the most. And what I'm talking about, what brings this up is last week I was doing some follow-up calls with some members and just touching base to see, if anybody needed to get assessed during their trial period, if they needed help with training or anything like that. And inevitably, this scenario plays out over and over and over again with guys, primarily in that 20 to 40, 20 to 50-year-old demographic in males, which is a pretty huge spread, and really the vast majority of males in gyms out there. So what it comes down to is that because they've lifted weights at some point in their life, whether it was in high school or in college, or they might have played a sport in college, they somehow are an expert, or they know everything that they need to know about working out, about nutrition. They don't need any help. And so I just sort of want to get into a little bit, what really makes somebody an expert, and if that is a legitimate, you worked out a few days a week for 2 or 3 years in high school and college, and now you know all that you need to know, and whether or not that's accurate or not. So, and invariably these people, I'll have these conversations, and I've even had people come in and ask for training jobs, to work in my facilities over the years, and they'll come in and I'll ask if they have any type of certification, any type of college education, and a lot of time the answer is no, but, I played football in high school, or I played football in college and I worked out, so I know what I'm doing, is somehow the case. And I don't know what high schools or what colleges or what weight rooms they've been in, but I have yet to see a high school or college weight room where the majority of people are doing things well or correct or with good form or, oftentimes, unfortunately, even a sensible, well-thought-out plan. And that's nothing against the coaches. It's just budget, finances, time. Really, the coaches are just happy if they can get their kids in there lifting, doing something, during the off-season. So it's not really their fault, but this notion that because you worked out during those times you were an expert is highly inaccurate, I think. So there's a real common number that's thrown out there as far as what the amount of time it takes to become an expert is 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours in your field makes you an expert. And though I don't think a flat number invariably makes you an expert, because that can be 10,000 hours of doing a lot of stupid, wrong stuff, or you could be a really, good thinker and learn very quickly, and you could theoretically be an expert in a shorter period of time. But that's where I'm going to go through some timetables. So if I took, this demographic that I'm talking about that tends to think that they know everything, and I'm going to be real generous with their numbers, but let's say they started when they were 15 years old, in high school, and let's say they work out 5 hours a week, every week, ever since they were 15 years old. And that's probably being generous, because I've yet to meet anybody in this demographic that's never taken time off. But let's say that they're the exception. They're the one that's never missed a workout, never missed a week, ever since they were 15 years old. And let's give them a little more benefit of that. Let's say that they do some reading, some men's health, muscle and fitness, muscular development. They read some internet blogs, so they're really ahead of the curve here, and they're really learning good information. So they're an hour a week of reading, 5 hours a week of training, ever since they were 15. And again, I've yet to meet anybody that falls in this demographic, but let's be generous. If they did that all the way until they were 60 years old, that would put them at 14,000 hours roughly, 14,040 hours roughly of experience, I guess. So by that 10,000 hour definition, they would, in fact, I guess, be an expert by the time they were 60. Again, haven't met anybody that falls in that category. But what would they would really be an expert in what? In their own personal training, in what they do with their own body. So they might be an expert, but if that were the case, if they were an expert within their own body, within their own training, within their own nutrition, then they should know everything they need to know. They should have achieved all of their goals and done everything they could ever imagine or want to do, performance-wise, aesthetics-wise, how they look, how they feel, what they can do. So there should be no goals that are unachieved by that point, I would imagine, if they are experts, in fact. Invariably, when I talk to these people, though, and I ask them, hey, so you don't need any help, you know what you're doing, have you reached all your goals? Are you perfect? Have you done everything you want to do? And the answer is always no, and then there's a stream of excuses, as with a lot of people. So there's always some justification for, even though why they know everything, they haven't been able to achieve anything of consequence or anything substantial. Conversely, I'm just going to take some of my own experience, my own background. I started in 1998 when I was in 8th grade, and I can attest that I have not missed any workouts. I've not taken months off from training. I've not taken weeks off from training outside of planned deloads during vacations from time to time. So I'll call it, 50 weeks a year. We'll take 2 weeks off there just for vacation, sick days, whatever, at 5 hours a week. And there's been multiple times, especially in my younger years, where I was, doing 2-hour workouts 6 days a week. Maybe not intelligently, but anyway, so 5 hours is probably an underestimation realistically. Over the 18 years I've been doing this at 50 weeks a year, let's say, that puts it at 4,680 hours of my own personal training time with myself. Throw in book knowledge or hours, reading and studying through college, and then research periodicals that I subscribe to. We're well over 500 hours of book reading, book learning, whatever you want to call it, information that way. So the theoretical side of things, the practice that way. And then hands-on training other people, which realistically is probably the most important thing, what you can do with other people. So my professional career over the last 8 years, working full-time in this field at 40-plus hours a week, puts it at a little over 16,000 hours, for a total, if you combine the books, the reading, the undergraduate, bachelor's degree, training myself, training other individuals, over the last 18 years puts me, just over 21,000 hours. So at age 30, well over that 60-year-old who that theoretical, that hypothetical 60-year-old who has been, doing some of this stuff. And the vast majority of that time would be coming from training other individuals. And what I've learned in that time is that I don't know anything. I mean, the more I read, the more I learn, the more I train others, the more I train myself, the more questions I have, the more, unsure about certain things I am sure about, or that I have a high level of confidence I can see have worked very well for myself, have worked very well for clients. The research, the evidence in controlled studies and settings backs it up, and that's ultimately the only thing we can know for sure is what the research says and shows, what multiple research says and shows, and what we can replicate with our own anecdotal experience, and what we can replicate with our clients. And so that's sort of the experience that I bring, and I said, I feel like I know less now than I did, 10 years ago. And I'm always trying to learn from others. I'm still going to clinics, on a yearly basis, still trying to upgrade certifications, still trying to read and learn from other people that have more experience than me. And I would by no means consider myself an expert in any way, shape, or form. I think the only people that are really truly experts out there are those in their specific field who have PhDs who are working in a laboratory and are doing the research. And most of those people, you don't know who they are. You've never heard of them because they're doing research. They're doing the studies. They're reading through the studies. They're interpreting the data and putting it out there for me and for others that they can interpret it for people like me. They're the experts, and you're not going to hear them because they're not tweeting. They're not building social media followings. They don't have a Facebook page. They don't have Instagram. They don't have these things. They're not promoting themselves because their passion is in research and is learning information. And they are experts, but they're experts in a very finite field, in a very small segment. of whatever they're researching. So it might be one small aspect of biomechanics, a small aspect of nutrition, say protein metabolism, or insulin response, to carbohydrates. True experts are, their area of expertise is small and very narrowed. Think of a surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon. They specialize in one type of surgery: shoulders, knees, hips, back, neck. They don't do surgery all over the whole body. They do it on one specific area, and that's what makes them an expert. Working out since in high school, playing football does not make you an expert. Even myself, with over 20,000 hours of experience with myself, with clients, reading, school, I don't feel anywhere near being an expert, and not knowing nearly enough. The people that really are experts, they have a niche that they focus on, and so we need to learn from them and pull that together, and have somebody that has the time to do all that, and then apply that to themselves and to clients, and interpret that and see the practical implications, and how can we use that information in our daily training with our nutrition plans, and what's going to work and be most effective. On the closing note, the one thing I always just sort of think of when I hear people say, "Oh, well, I've been in gyms most of my life, the last 15, 20 years, on and off," and it's always on and off. It's never consistent, or else they probably would have reached some of their goals. But I think, I drive a car. I drive a car every day to work, bring it home, I fill it up with gas. I can probably change the oil on it. I am not a mechanic. I don't know anything about cars. I'm not handy. That'd be the equivalent of me saying, "Oh, well, I drive a car a lot, so I know all about cars. I don't need any help with my car." I'm not that naive. I'm not that ignorant. I know that I need help with my car. Unfortunately, the women out there, seem to be a lot more receptive. For whatever reason, they don't have this alpha ego thing going on. And this isn't all guys. I do have several clients who have gotten awesome results, because they're humble enough to know that, they might not know everything out there. And our women, our female clients, they're getting fantastic results when they're sticking to the plan and the programs and the nutrition coaching and stuff. They seem to be a lot more open and receptive to that. So that's just sort of my take on expertise and what really builds knowledge. And, like I said, for me, I think the more I know, the less I feel I know, and the more I want to learn. If at any point somebody doesn't have that, they don't want to keep learning, they think that they know it all, that they have it all figured out, and if they don't change the way they approach things, the way they look at things, then realistically they probably aren't an expert. They probably don't know very much at all. Have a good day, guys.